6. 6 captains have stepped foot on PNF 404, and it's pretty obvious that some are better than others. Today, we are going to compare them all and see which traits make up a good captain. Hello everyone, you're watching Variety Television and welcome to another Pikmin video. Today, we are taking a close look at each individual playable character throughout Pikmin, excluding the Pikmin 4 player character of course, and seeing what they're made of. Before we get started, I'd like to give a quick reminder to check and see if you're subscribed. This community has grown larger than I ever thought it would, which is truly amazing. Despite that, many of you are still not subscribed, which would really help out the channel. Sorry for taking up so much time with that, let's get started. To lay down some groundwork, I think it's important to first discuss Olimar. He's the first captain/playable character introduced in the series, and he has many accomplishments to his name. He survives crash landing on a planet, repairs his ship, saves the company he works for from debt, then saves his co-worker, he saves his boss's company another time, and even returns to the planet once more to repair the Hakate's ship. Say what you want about all that stuff, or even about his grand accomplishments of pure survival, these are not the only things that make Olimar a good captain, at least in my opinion. Olimar's most notable accomplishments, to me, are his logs and data files. This is a man whose life is in peril, yet he takes the time to document everything he sees, from Pikmin traits and behavior to notes on the natural wildlife he sees. His data logs provide information for people who may end up in a similar position, such as info on hostile life forms and tips for navigating puzzling areas. We see these really come into play and even see their ripple effects in Pikmin 3. Without Olimar's logs, it's likely the Copites wouldn't have figured out what to do. Charlie somewhat learns how to use yellow Pikmin on his own, but he's immediately swallowed whole. Brittany gets stuck behind a glass wall with no way to escape, and Alf fully utilizes Olimar's knowledge on his first encounter with Pikmin. While there are no notes left in Alf's crash site, when he retrieves his Copad, it turns out to have instructions for calling, throwing, and plucking Pikmin. Seeing as how only 3 others had been there before the Copites and only 1 cared about documenting anything, it's pretty clear how this information got on the Copad in the first place. Olimar's notes and information spread across multiple intelligent civilizations, giving them all the knowledge of PNF 404 and how to survive. We really see an emphasis on this particular character trait of Olimar in Pikmin 4. We won't spend a lot of time talking about it because we don't really know how it connects to the rest of the story, but it's really interesting how almost the entire game happening depends on Olimar sending out his data logs. We even see the Rescue Corps using his information to save him, and they probably would have been screwed without it. Olimar is not only a talented survivalist, he also cares about the well-being of others, and he cares for science and the betterment of knowledge. Olimar is probably the best example of what a good captain should be. And this brings us to Alf, arguably the next most accomplished in our list. Although he's not truly a captain, he is one of the 3 playable characters in Pikmin 3. He's an engineer, but in my mind, all the Pikmin playable characters are called captains, regardless of whether they actually captain a ship or not, so I'm just going to be using that word regardless of their actual title. Alf shows many of the traits that I stated were so wonderful about Olimar. Mainly, Alf cares for the well-being of others and will go out of his way for his team. When Brittany gets trapped behind the glass wall, Alf is the one who finds the rock Pikmin and sets her free. He works together with Brittany to save her once again when they get separated. After this, Alf saves Charlie with Brittany's help and they collectively rescue Olimar and Louie. This puts 4 rescues under Alf's belt, but that's not all that makes him a good captain. Alf's engineering expertise is what allows the team to do anything at all on this planet. When it comes to ship repairs, Alf does that. When it comes to discovering new areas, Alf does that too. Nobody else has the knowledge to make alien tech work in the Drake to expand the search range. These 2 actions alone allow the group to reclaim their cosmic drive key, rescue Olimar and Louie, and escape the planet themselves. If the exact same crash happened, but it was just Brittany and Charlie, they would have been done for. Speaking of Charlie, let's move on to him next. Before he gets swallowed whole, he is able to discover the yellow Pikmin and even figured out how to use them without any outside help. showing at least some sort of problem-solving skills. He is the actual appointed captain of the Kopite team, but from what we see in Pikmin 3, he doesn't perform a lot of actual jobs, he's just the leader. Nothing particularly bad about him, but no great accomplishments either. I guess he does share some of Olimar's survival skills, as he was able to survive inside the belly of a beast for quite some time, as well as figure out how to use Pikmin on his own. He just didn't really get a chance to show that off. Next up is Louie and Brittany. These two are key examples of what being a bad captain looks like, although there is one worse. Since we meet Louie first, let's talk about him first. His list of accomplishments are just as grand as Alf or Olimar, but in the completely opposite direction. Where Olimar and Louie recovered the company's debt, Louie's the one who caused it in the first place. We know from in-game details from more than one person that the golden pick carrots are crazy expensive, and so Louie really did a number on the company. His initial action causes massive debt and puts his own and Olimar's life at risk, as they now have to go recover that debt. In this very same trip, Louie manages to slip past Olimar and get left behind. He assumes control of the Titan Dweevil, and it would seem he's planning on settling down here permanently. Olimar once again shows he cares about others by returning to save Louie, while Louie shows how he feels by trying to take out Olimar and the President. Louie's actions in Pikmin 3 are very interesting, on the other hand. There's absolutely a discussion to be had about this. They absolutely set him up to be some sort of antagonist here as well, but it doesn't quite come across that way. For starters, Louie steals all of the Kopite's food after they graciously rescue him. This action can't be solely negative, though. I know that if I was knocked unconscious on a mysterious planet and I woke up after clearly being carried into a ship by somebody I didn't know, I would probably run away too. And if I was stranded on a mysterious planet without food and fearing for my life, I'd probably take some of their food from the ship too. Then after this, he stays behind to help the Kopites save Olimar. Whether he did this out of goodness or out of a lack of options is unclear. It is clear that it would appear he stays behind once again, probably in another attempt to be the king of bugs. So basically, Louie falls short because he's selfish and he puts the lives of others at risk. He may even be homicidal, but we really don't have the full story of the Titan Dweevil to make that call. This one won't take long, let's talk about the President. His motivations are always 100% greed, and we've never seen an example of him caring for others, certainly not his employees. You could say that he at least helped rescue Louie, but I would argue that it was only because he had to. The President sucks as a leader and cares only for himself and his own gain. Which brings us to Brittany. And Brittany is arguably the worst of all of them. Brittany shows selfishness at levels of the President while also stealing from her teammates. She puts her team at risk every day by making sure none of them are properly fed. The entire mission these three are on revolves around a hunger problem. Kopai is out of food and all of them are hungry. Brittany actively keeps Alf and Charlie's portions smaller so she can have more for herself. It doesn't take a genius to understand that her teammates would be just as hungry as she is, and she's slowly starving them more and more over the length of their time on PNF 404. Not to mention that their cosmic drive key was missing, so as far as Brittany is concerned, they're all stranded, meaning she could be signing their death sentence. This shows her selfishness further, as she is constantly making survival harder for her teammates and making it easier for herself. But out of these three, it's really hard to say who's the worst. I think it's gotta be the President or Brittany, and here's why. For Louie, it's really hard to say what his motivations are for most of his decisions. The only one we know that was truly negative was eating all of the golden carrots. Beyond that, it's implied that the bugs of PNF 404 may have some weird link with Louie after he started consuming them. Either Louie got crazy bug controlling powers or the Titan gained crazy Louie controlling powers, and it's really unclear which one happens. If it is the Dweevil in control, then ultimately Louie just made one mistake at the start and then went along with the rest with unfortunate consequences. The President, on the other hand, is absolutely greedy and puts his team in danger, and Brittany does exactly the same. Neither care about the well-being of their team. Brittany even goes as far as to take food from her team, causing long-term consequences. It seems the only true difference is that the president is the boss of a company, which I suppose would somewhat explain his demeanor. Brittany is part of a team saving her home planet from starvation. You'd think that this is a selfless task, but she steals food from her starving team to have more for herself. A good captain would want their team to be at the top of their game and would even give their own rations for the benefit of others. Brittany and the president are the total opposite of this. I guess my ranking would go like this. The best is Olimar, followed by Alf, who's followed by Charlie, then Louie, and then the president and Brittany are the worst of the bunch. There's a lot that goes into making a captain good, and even those bad captains are amazing characters and are all very likable. At least I like them all. Let me know what you think about each of the captains down in the comments below. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out this video, and please don't forget to check if you're subscribed, and consider leaving a like if you enjoyed. That's all I've got for this one, and I really hope to see you in the next one. Stay tuned. Variety Television will be right back.